What's up guys, it's Zach here from Metal and Mutt Homebrew. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to have a quick look at pH meters, specifically the Kegland one, because that's what I own, but more importantly, how to calibrate them. So first question is, why do we need a pH meter? pH is incredibly important in beer. Most breweries will monitor the pH from start to finish at varying points in the brew day. As a home brewer, the main area we need to sort of focus on is the mash pH. It depends entirely on beer style, but as a rough guide, a pH of around 5.4 is what we're shooting for, somewhere between 5.2, 5.6, as I say, for most beer styles. You can get the little dippy paper stick things. They work, but they're not accurate at all, and you usually end up guessing as to what your pH is, so I gave up with them after a fairly short period of time, bit the bullet and bought one of these. I've always liked Kegland gear. I always think it's value for money. This is about 50 quid, 45, 50 quid in the UK. It's not let me down yet. It's a good piece of kit. You can pay a lot more for pH meters if you want to. You might arguably get slightly more accuracy or slightly better kit. Equally, you can also pay a lot less, but I would maybe advise staying away from the really cheap ones. I've seen a lot of reviews that say they're inaccurate, they break, and probably just not worth the money. If you've got the cash, this one will do. If you can get an even better one, ideal. In terms of calibrating then, most pH meters should be roughly the same sort of format as this, but obviously I can only show you the Kegland one. Have a look at your own instructions and see how you do it, but they will all involve what's called a buffer solution. So essentially it's these little sachets here. You usually do a 3-point calibration. So I've got 3 sachets, one of a pH of 4.01, one of a pH of 6.86, and one of a pH of 9.18. What you do is you mix those solutions, those powders into 3 different solutions. Use distilled water. You want water like RO water or something like that that's got an extremely low to zero mineral content. Don't use your tap water unless you really have to. But as you can see, I've got the 3 jars all mixed up. So I've got my pH of 4, pH of 6.86 and pH of 9 all ready to go, mixed up with the distilled water. Make sure they're at room temperature. Most pH meters will be calibrated for around 20 degrees C. In terms of the actual calibration itself, with the Kegland one, it's mega simple. All you got to do is remove your end cap, turn it on, stick it in your first solution. I always start at the 4, give it a swirl around and just let it settle a little bit until the value reads fairly stable. We are then going to hold down the calibrate button for around 3 seconds. On the screen you'll see it flash cal or calibrate, something along those lines. It'll flash on and off a little bit, and then it will show you the correct value. So it will say a pH of 4, which is what mine's telling me now, and then it will say end. You then know that it's calibrated at that particular solution. So you can remove it, give it a rinse off with some distilled water. I'd highly recommend getting one of these little bottles. And you do exactly the same for the middle solution, so the 6.86. Stick it in, give it a swirl around. Once it's fairly settled, hold down the calibrate button again for 3 seconds. It'll flash calibrate. It'll flash the right value, so sitting at 6.85 on that one, that's close enough for me. And then it will say end again. And that is that one done. So I'm now calibrated at those 2 points. And funnily enough, it'll be exactly the same for the last one. So into the solution, give it a stir around, let it settle. When we're happy, we'll hold down calibrate again for around 3 seconds. Cal pops up, correct value pops up, and then it says end. So we are now satisfied, or I am satisfied, that that pH meter is perfectly calibrated and ready to use. In an ideal world, you calibrate it before every single brew day. I don't. I wish I did, but I don't. I do it every few brew days or when I can. Give it a clean off. Dab it with some paper towel because we need to look after the probe, which leads me on to my sort of final point. Look after these things. You can get replacement probes, but you don't want to be doing that if you don't have to. Inside of your cap, you will notice a little sponge. I've got some liquid in there. What that liquid is an electrolyte solution. It's specifically designed for pH meters. You put a tiny bit in the bottom of the cap, put that back on, and that will keep the probe moist and make sure that it stays in good condition. If you're wondering where to get that, just Google electrolyte solution for pH meters and it should show up. But in short, that's pH meters and that's how you calibrate them, specifically the Kegland one. I recommend this one. It's done me proud, and I would strongly recommend you do get one if you're serious about your brewing. But yeah, that's about all I've got to say on that subject. If you enjoyed that video, please hit like, consider subscribing, and please do feel free to check out all of the other videos I've got on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Cheers.